I'm Jasmine Adams, and in this series of Footprints to Fruition, we will dive into how budding entrepreneurs find the funding. Now, starting a business is hard. There are a lot of challenges, but finding startup capital is usually one of the hardest. I will introduce you to dynamic entrepreneurs and show you how they sourced and obtained the funding to launch their dreams. I'm sitting here with one of my really good friends, Tiffany McKenzie, and you will probably remember her from the Footprints to Fruition episode of Vibe Ride. Well, guess what? Tiffany is a serial entrepreneur. She is in the wellness, health, and fitness space and is ready to bring you another business. And we are going to talk to her about how she is finding the funding with her entrepreneurial endeavors. Thank you, Tiffany, for being here.
Thank you, Jasmine, for having me.
Yes, of course. I know. Let's jump into this. Yes. So, one of the things that really strikes me when I look at videos around entrepreneurship and building businesses is people say, I started a business and this is how I'm progressing. Revenue has been great, but what they don't get into is the seed funding. Like, where did you get your initial capital from? How did you sustain yourself from having the idea to opening your doors? So the first thing that I just want to do, at least for everyone out there to know, is tell us a little bit about your businesses, and then we'll jump into the funding piece.
Sure. So one of the first businesses I started was Vibe Ride, which is an indoor cycling studio. Okay. We are now franchising Vibe Ride, which is great. Our first franchise location is in Grant Park. Our second franchise will be in Detroit, Michigan. When we started Vibe Ride, we kind of tried everything. We threw everything at the wall and we kind of saw what stuck. So that meant, putting in our own money. So obviously our own sweat equity, our own actual cash, asking family and friends for money. We also got a small business loan, and on top of that, we did a crowdsourcing campaign. So we really tried a bunch of different ways to get funding for Vibe Ride. Some of them worked well, some not so much.
Okay, and so let's take the first one that you mentioned. Yeah. So you talked about personal investing. How did you figure out among you and your co-owners how much you needed to put in out of pocket? How did you all come to that agreement?
Well, first we started with a business plan. We actually hired a consultant that was known for doing indoor cycling studios. So we hired him, and he was able to put together a business plan for us, tell us how much everything was going to cost. Construction, the actual equipment, the bikes, labor, everything under one roof. And what all of it together would cost, we put it in a nice, pretty business plan. It's fancy. We could send it off to potential investors and also lenders. And that's kind of where we started with the overall number of what we thought it was going to cost to get this business started.
Okay. And so once you had that number, then it's interesting because your personal investments are at stake as well.
Correct.
Right? So how did you vet the fact that each one of you individually with your personal finances were even qualified to be personal funders for the organization?
It's a tough conversation to have. So, and I said this before in our last interview, you really need to pick your business partners carefully because this is your baby. It's almost like you're married to each other. So you need to have those premarital conversations. So how much money are you putting in? What is your credit? If this all goes to hell in a handbag, what are you able to put forward going forward? So it's tough conversations that you need to have with your business partners, and if they're not able to answer those questions, maybe you need to think about who you're going into business with.
Interesting. Okay. And so after you figured out how much each of you all would put into the business, then you moved to family and friends. Okay. And with that, then you're asking people for money.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I hear women talking about fear of asking people for even a small amount. So when I'm thinking about funding a business, these are large chunks of money. How did you muster up the courage? Did you have to have the courage? What was that process like for you all?
Well, absolutely. It could be scary and nerve-wracking asking people for money. But I think when it comes to being an entrepreneur, if you do not have the confidence to ask your family for money, how do you have the confidence to ask strangers to be your customers and to pay for your service or your product? Because it shouldn't be difficult to ask someone for money. If you're really passionate about something, they should be like, yes, absolutely, I'm into this. When do we start? What do I buy? You know what I mean? So I think it's really just making sure that you have the confidence and the gusto to be an entrepreneur, because that's what it takes.
And So how did that go? Did your family and friends rally around you and give you a lot of money, a little bit? Did you have to ask multiple times?
Family was easy. You know, that's kind of the low-hanging fruit. They support you. You know, you're their daughter or granddaughter, and they want to see you succeed. So that was easier than friends, I would say. Friends, you know, can sometimes put a little bit of judgment on what you're doing, and they may ask different questions, but that's important. You need those types of people in your life. You need people who are going to say, well, have you thought about that? And have you thought about this? And how's it going to work if this happens? And you know, what if some type of disruptor comes up? What are you going to do then? So, but again, that's something that's important to have in your life, because those are what your clients are going to do. That's what you need to be prepared for with customers. So I'd say family was a bit easier than friends, but there were definitely friends that have supported us along the way that have been our biggest supporters. So I'm thankful for them as well.
Okay. And then from the family and friends standpoint, then you all moved to, and I know you did the SBA loan, we'll get to that in a second, but you moved to crowdsourcing.
Yes.
So talk to us about what that experience was like.
So that was one of the things that didn't work so well. Okay. So we did an Indiegogo campaign, and it's one of those campaigns where you kind of come up with a goal target, and you say, I want $10,000, and I'm going to give this product or service, or this product and service, to certain levels of people who donate certain levels of money. And we had a lot of people when we started ViBride that were so excited for us. They were like, yes, we can't wait to go. We're going to do whatever. Let us just know what you need. We'll be there to support. And then here we are. We're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Now it's time for you to support. And then it was crickets. You know, so obviously really close family and friends would donate $50 or $100. We had a goal of $10,000 and we got nowhere near it. Nowhere near it, yeah.
Really?
And some of the crowdsourcing campaigns will just refund everybody their money if you don't actually hit that target. So thankfully Indiegogo was not one of those. So we were able to keep the money that we raised, but it was nowhere near our $10,000 goal.
That's a really hard pill to swallow.
Yes.
It sounds like.
Yeah, and it kind of makes you feel like, well, do people really support us?
Right.
You know, because they're not willing to put their money where their mouth is.
So how did you all recover from that?
We kind of just kept going. You know, it was the crowdsourcing was one of those things that was just going to be an icing on the cake. We had set up exactly how much we needed. We had put forth our actual own personal investments, and our family and friends had invested, and we had also done an SBA loan. So the crowdsourcing was just going to be extra funding that would be helpful, but if we didn't have it, it was okay.
Got it. Okay. And so lastly, you talked about the Small Business Administration loan. Now, for some of you out there, you always hear about SBA, but you don't necessarily know some of the details about it. So here we're sitting with someone who has gone through that process, and I'm interested to learn more about being able to secure the loan, what type of collateral was required in order to invest into ViBride.
Yeah, so we also did a SBA loan for ViBride, and one of my business partners, she is the one who is guaranteeing that loan. We are doing an SBA loan for Perspire as well. It is a long, tedious process asking an institutional lender for money, because they want to know everything about you. They basically want your firstborn child. But I mean, I understand it. They want to make sure that, one, you are doing the right things with the money. You're not laundering money. You've got an actual legit business going on.
I really appreciate you sitting down and sharing this evolution of a journey that has so much further to go, and being able to watch it. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And keep watching Footprints to Fruition, Finding the Funding. We will bring more information to you on how you can make your vision come true too.